Good afternoon, 5:29. Yay! I've never hit 5:30 once. I put my little hallelujah light on for Vicky. There you go, darling. Anyway, this story is a very personal one because it happened to a best friend, one of my dear friends, a while ago, but very true. And so it's personal. I could abbreviate the entire chapter into 2 words: emotional waves. But you don't know what I mean right until we get into it. The other thing, throughout my book, I mean, we've been doing this since April 3rd, all the way through. You've been good, a lot of you. You've been good. Hi, my girl Lisa. Before I get into this, throughout both books, my book, Committed to Love, and this one, Hospice Heart book, I've said a couple things throughout it that are fluent. I mean, they're just always going to be. It's a common thread in almost all my books. It says, take the time to let the time take care of you. For some of you, I hope when you do go back through my readings from April, May into now, I hope you write some of this information down because it is very valuable. It's not about me. I'm just informing you of information that you might need one day, or that you know someone who does, and that's all I do is I just tell stories and share information. Also, grieving. I always talk a lot about the grieving process, and I've spoken so much before: bereavement groups, support groups, regular groups, panel discussions. Everybody grieves differently. Just because someone, let's say, has someone pass 6 months ago, and they want to go out 6 months later dancing and having a good time and meet somebody and get involved, there's nothing wrong in that. What I'm stating is everybody grieves differently. I still have times when I grieve Jeffrey. That's just how it is. I grieve him at times. Definitely not as much as I did 28 years ago, but I grieve. It hasn't stopped me from living. Look, here it is. I'm reading to the world on a phone. So I'm going forward, but grieving is a process. And then the other thing is, again, let's back up one more time and we can write some of these things down. Let the time, take the time to let the time take care of you. That's it. So this is an emotional wave story, and it's personal because it happened to a good friend. I have to read, I think, with these on. Here we go, just to read. Chapter 20. And I held their hands with a hospice heart. When we are all done with chapter 24, the following day I am thoroughly going to read the table of contents, so you will know how much information you were receiving, how much you absorbed, how much of my life and other people's lives pertain to your life. You're going to be overwhelmed when you hear the titles again. Then I'm going to do my book differently than before, but I'm going to do my book. And I'm going to start with a lot of information, and I'm going to teach you about stuff through me. Chapter 20. This man thought that he was in control of his emotions after his mother died, but he had not taken the necessary time to grieve, and his emotional waves finally caught up with him. Don't tell me some of you, I always love to say that, don't tell me that some of you haven't experienced, some of you, every single thing I've talked about. You didn't take the time to grieve, and then all of a sudden, something happened, and you became a floodgate, an emotional wreck. And that'll happen to everybody. If it hasn't happened to you out of a major loss, good. If it hasn't happened to you because you're not wired to even shed a tear, fine. But you will have emotional waves. That's why they're called emotions. At some point, you're going to have emotions. So this man thought that he was in control of his life after his mother passed. But it found out that he hadn't taken the time to grieve. And it finally caught up with him. Here, quote, learning through the recovery process means taking control back of your life. That's what it is. The recovery process means taking control back of your life. If you have control. I mean, a lot of things we have no control over. We make choices, we make decisions. Doesn't mean we're in control. But I'm just saying you have to grieve and take the time in order to process what has happened. And nobody can tell you that. You have to work through it. It is a process. January 2000. January 2000, dear Jeff. For 25 years, we celebrated 2 joyous occasions together. Hello, Russell. We celebrated 2 joyous occasions together in January. One was on January 11th when we were married, and the other your birthday on January 17th. I remember those wonderful days in my mind, but I try not to feel them in my heart. This still remains a painful time for me. It's only 5 years after he's gone, but it still remains a painful time for me. I can almost relate this to, right now. I am busy and focused on other things, and I am thankful when the week is over. Well, that's not where I am now. I don't want the weeks are going by too quick, so I renew on that one's rebuked. But in general, you just go with me here. This still remains a painful time for me, birthdays and anniversaries. I stay busy and I focus on other things, and I'm thankful when the week is over. But you were a gentleman and a gentleman. I never told you before how much I envied your discipline and self-control. I loved your wonderful disposition. You were even-tempered, hated arguments, confrontations, and loud conversations. I'm almost every one of those, except perhaps loud conversation, but almost every one of them. I'm not even-tempered. No. I loved arguments. I love confronting people. Give me something to confront you about. I might not do it the way I used to do it, but give me a little something to chew on. You listened carefully to people before choosing the appropriate words and respected other people's thoughts, others' opinions. You listened carefully to people before choosing the appropriate words and respected others' opinions, though you might not have agreed with them. What does it say? Slow to speak and quick to listen? We certainly had different personalities. Here we go. A little ahead of the time. A little prophetic. I was argumentative. Check. Bossy. Check. Mean. Check. Short-tempered. Check. And like confronting everything head-on. 2 checks. I pushed people's buttons to get them to react. Oh, and I was good at it also. And I reacted instinctively instead of waiting for the proper time. I know that it was my own frustrations and disappointments that fueled many of our arguments, and that my volatile temper, moodiness, and anger came from my own personal unresolved issues. I am confessing to the World Wide Web what I used to be like, and if you measured it on a 1 to 10 scale, oh, we did reconnect. I don't know what happened and stuff. Anyway, I was probably on a scale of 1 to 10 in all those issues, a 11 or 12. Now I'm probably a 3 or 4. It's still there, but I control it. My writing has allowed me to express my most intimate feelings in a healthy way. It has become both my best friend and my therapy. When I looked up the meaning of the word emotion, it stated that it was a noun that meant strong feelings. It's a complex and usually strong subjective response to a particular feeling like love or hate. Synonyms include affection, sentiment, passion, and sympathy. Since your death, I've learned a lot about myself. I realized that feeling emotional and acting emotionally are 2 very different things. How's that? I realized that feeling emotional and acting emotionally are two very different things. Oh, this is good. I never read these stories before. I'm trying not to put myself into compromising situations that will drain my energy and take me away from what I have to do. I'm trying to do only with what I know I can handle, and I'm trying not to control the things that are out of my control. Philosophy for all of you. Being on my own has taught me that I'm the only one accountable and responsible for everything I do. So are you. I cannot blame anyone or make anyone any excuses for something if I did or it didn't work out. Now I've gotten stronger emotionally and gained more confidence in myself by facing myself. That's the writing. All this years of self-help therapy. The following story is personal because it involved a close friend. The issue deals with the complex vulnerability of one's emotional state after a loved one's death. It was 7:00 a.m. when the phone rang. His voice was, this is year 2000, remember, I'm writing this. It was 7:00 a.m. and the phone rang. His voice was wavering, and I didn't know if he was laughing or crying. I said, "Slow down, take a deep breath. What's the matter?" He said, "I thought that I was handling things, but I'm not. My mind is racing. I didn't sleep last night, and I can't get myself under control. I can't stop crying. I haven't been this way since Mom died." I said, "It's only been 2 months since her death. It's only been 2 months since her death. You are still in shock and dealing with her loss. It's natural to be upset. Do you want me to come over?" "Yes," he said, "I'd like that." And he was in the same building. He moved into my building, lived on a different floor, but he was just a blessing to me, but I ended up being a blessing to him. So an hour later, I said, "Do you want me to come over?" He said, "Yes, I'd like that." An hour later, I knocked on his door. When he answered, he looked exhausted and dazed. His eyes stared through me, not at me. I gave him a hug and said, "We'll have a pot of caffeine and a good cry." What a great way to start the day. His beautiful smile turned to laughter. His wonderful laugh then turned to tears. He said Mom was ill with emphysema. And remember, I went through this. I was with him for a long time. He said Mom was ill with emphysema for 5 years. During this time, I did everything I could to give quality to her life. He was a wonderful son. She was my best friend. He never had married. My life revolved around her. I was able to adapt and adjust to the different stages of her illness, and I could usually predict what was going to happen next and how I might react. But I didn't realize until now what a serious toll her death had taken on me. The past 2 months have been horrible, and I'm exhausted. I feel alone, abandoned, and afraid. Emotions. I feel like my purpose for living is gone. I don't know what to expect or when I'll lose control. I said, "I admired your devotion to your mother. You never complained or stopped trying to give her the very best. Even when you were worn out and overwhelmingly grieved, you never said that you couldn't take it any longer. You were always able to handle everything." He said, "Your husband died after a long illness, so you know how difficult it is watching someone you love die. For 5 years, I made her illness and well-being my priority. I knew that she was dying, but I still had her in my life." Boy, did we relate on things. "I didn't take any other responsibilities during her last few months. I asked friends and hospice for help when I needed it. I tried to keep my life as orderly and organized as possible, and I did conserve my emotional energy. But I had to handle the funeral arrangements, her personal affairs, and everything else. I thought that I was doing all right until now. I said, "What happened that made you feel like this?" Something unexpected caught you off guard and made you react this way. He said, I was cleaning out the freezer. I was cleaning out my freezer a week ago. There was a container of homemade chicken soup that I was going to bring to Mom. I went to remove it and it fell on the floor, splattering over everything. I got hysterical and fell to my knees crying like a baby. It took me 4 hours to compose myself. I stayed in bed for 2 days. Yesterday I was in the market. While I was in the market, one of Mom's favorite songs was playing. I lost control again and ran from the store. I had to pull off the road because I was crying so hard. When Mom was alive, I was able to deal with my ups and downs better because I could focus on her and her illness. Now I feel emotionally caught off guard and unprepared. I feel vulnerable and unsure of my emotions. I don't know what will get me. I don't know what will get me or how I will react. He doesn't know what will get him or how he will react. I don't know when I'm going to lose control or for how long. I'm frightened because I don't have any signs or signals warning me of my instability. I feel like I'm setting myself up for problems and I don't know what to do. I'm scared because I don't know how to deal with unexpected emotional turmoil. I said, it's going to take a long time for you to know what you can deal with and what you can't. Live each day, conserve your energy, and don't waste it on anything that you know you cannot handle. Try to set yourself up. Try not to set yourself up. As time goes along, you'll get better at doing this. The grieving and healing process is a slow one. Take the time. I did not know that this was in there because I'd never read this story before. I said, take the time to let the time take care of you. Please write that down. Write it down. We spoke many times in the days and weeks that followed. He shared his feelings, dealt with his emotions, and faced every situation as it came along. He continued to do what he always had done. He lived. Yeah, we'll be able to finish. Critical times that involve a life-threatening illness don't follow a set of rules. You may not realize how emotionally exhausted and drained you are because your energies and focus were centered on someone else. This is for me. This whole chapter is me. However, after your loved one's death, a caregiver's emotional stability has been seriously tested and compromised. Once the grieving and healing process has begun, your reactions might be different than they were before because the situation has changed. Your loved one is gone and you are back focusing on your life. Hi, Linda. This is the time when you'll start to experience what I call emotional waves. And I spoke about this one probably more than any other subject when I've been called upon to speak at luncheons or bereavement group support group panel discussion. There are some waves. This is the time when you'll start to experience what I call emotional waves. Quote, emotional waves, end quote. Some waves will be gentle and others violent. Their intensity will depend on timing and your vulnerability. Sometimes you'll think that you, quote, have it all together, end quote. You're feeling emotionally in control, more stable and secure. You're proud of the progress you've made in handling your loss. These, quote, gentle emotional waves, end quote, make you feel peaceful and calm. They are reassuring and supporting. They help you to remember the feelings of love and happiness. Gentle emotional waves. However, sometimes without warning, something unexpected will happen and a spontaneous emotional reaction will be triggered. Instantly, you'll feel out of control, fragile and vulnerable again. The gentle emotional waves have now become stormy, rough, and upsetting. These are, quote, violent emotional waves, end quote, that are strong and powerful. They'll catch you off guard, and they won't care where or when. They'll come crashing against your heart, and they will tear at your soul. You'll feel pain, disorder, and confusion. It might be a song, a picture, a smell, a phrase, or one of 1,000 different things, but something will happen that will remind you of your loved one. Something will get to your raw, open vulnerability. The pain and anguish you'll experience will make you feel as though your loss happened for the very first time. You will not be able to control or stop that emotional rush of violent waves as your feelings come pouring out. Gentle emotional waves, like the ocean. Stormy, whatever, violent emotional waves, boom, high tide with a hurricane. When it comes to taking back the emotional control of your life, there is no time limit. There is no way to predict how long your healing process will take, because dealing with your grief and loss is both very personal and private. It is. Until you are faced with this situation, you will not know how you are going to handle it. How do you think that you will cope, and how you actually do cope cannot be determined. But whether your life experiences are good or bad, you will react, because everyone has feelings and emotions. I've said that through everything. Each one of us has an inherent emotional component. An inherent emotional component. Feelings that cannot be taught, and emotions cannot be forced on anyone. Feelings that cannot be taught and emotions cannot be forced on anyone. You may choose to deal with your emotions privately. You might need to talk with someone about your feelings. You might guard your feelings. You might guard your feelings carefully, because you won't trust your emotions to anyone else. Perhaps your grief is too painful to share. Maybe you will begin to act them out, at first upon yourself and then upon others. You might think that you are emotionally back in control and ready to handle any situation that might arise. However, the emotional roller coaster ride that accompanies a loved one's death can catch you off guard. In time, you will learn how to deal with your, quote, emotional waves, unquote, and you'll let them take you wherever they will. You'll get better at coping with them, and you will grow through them. You will get better at understanding yourself, and you will become the master of your emotions again. Remember that time is the greatest gift of all. Thank you, Jeff, for 25 years of time. I'll say so long for a little while, Susan. So, chapter 21 tomorrow. I really don't read these. The only time I read these books were when I edited them. Well, for me, after 28 years of being a widow and losing him with no children, no family left, I definitely have still my emotional waves. Oh, but they're so much better. And I'm not the person I used to be in any way. I am really much nicer. Right after Jeff passed, I was getting my hair cut. At his memorial service, we played all Bette Midler songs. Had a beautiful memorial service, set it up at the funeral parlor with pictures and artwork from travels. It was beautiful. And we played Bette Midler music, Friends, Wind Beneath My Wings. I mean, it was up by 200 people there on an August day. It was packed with friends and what family he did have left, and then doctors and nurses and hospice. But we played Bette Midler's song because she was our favorite person. We saw her so many times. So everything was done, and a few months went by, and I was getting my hair cut. And while I was getting it colored, because I had red hair at the time, short, big, thick red hair, and they were coloring it, and I was over the sink getting the color put on in the beauty parlor, and the song "Wind Beneath My Wings" came on. And this was several months later. Well, might I tell you that I ripped the gown off. My hair was full of red dye. And I just bolted out of the salon. And I stayed in the parking lot for several minutes, maybe an hour. The people there knew Jeff had passed, but they didn't know why in the middle of getting my hair, thick red hair color. I couldn't deal with it. That one song reminded me of his memorial service. I can't listen to certain songs. Some people can go back in time with their music. I can't. I can't do the 60s, the 50s, 60s. I had to establish my own kind of music. And I do. I liked Meatloaf, though he passed away. He's my favorite. Queen, we never saw Queen. So my music is very different, classical. But in general, I can't listen. I haven't gone to a movie theater. 28 years. I don't want to sit in a theater because we did 3 of them in a day, and that was our favorite thing to do. I don't go to the movies. I've watched them all. Since he's passed, all these years later, I used to go to Blockbuster and rent them, and perfectly fine. I don't want to be in a theater, especially now. I just don't want to be around a lot of people in a theater making noise and why'd you say and all this other. It's not for me. Jeff and I wish. So there's so many things that will catch you off guard. And you may not ever want to do them again because it's too hard. Walking on the beach, I think it's probably been 15 years plus since I walked on the beach. The only time I did a walk on the beach in Deerfield that we did every night was my best friend there went with me and took me to the beach. And I still haven't gone. All these years later, I haven't gone down to Deerfield. Other than to eat, at a place to eat, but not walk the beach. I am so now aware of my emotional components and what I can handle and what I can't. And I'm telling you, you will get through that. I'll never be totally healed. And I don't plan on remarrying, and I never did. And so, I just shut people right down when they think, she's a perfect riddle, let's find somebody for her. No, don't, please don't. I'm good. I'm going to have my books published. We're going to make movies and series. In the health department that I buy the battery-operated toothbrushes for, someone's going to come along and sponsor and be with me, and a talk show. No, I have my priorities, and they're yours. Share everything we're talking about with your family, friends, because this is how it works. The more information you have, the better you'll be prepared. And you don't know when someone's going to need this, which is, I say, right. Take the time to let the time take care of you. Grieve at your own pace. Someone says this, shut them down. Be nice, but they mean well. But if they haven't been through it, I can't tell you the loss of a child. I mean, I had a miscarriage, but that was 1969. I was pregnant for, a day or 5 minutes. In general, don't let anybody tell you how long it takes to grieve. Don't. Be your own person. God bless you all. Thank you so much. I think we only have 4 more after tonight, and then I'm going to read you the entire table of contents. Won't that be fun? You've learned a lot, and I know you have. And you've appreciated it, and you've responded. And some descriptions have gotten more reaction, but you do go back through, because I see things going back up. All my reading of my book is on my website under my icon, Susan Reads, under my books icon. All my readings are on Facebook, YouTube, or on my website, Susan Reads, Committed to Love, under the books icon, Committed to Love. Half a dozen things, and the last one is Susan Reads, and everything is up there. We will be loading the hospice book up when I'm done. That will be under the Hospice Heart book. And that's my story, folks. Shalom. Hello. Thank you so much. Shalom, goodbye. Shalom, peace. I don't know where the weeks are going. It's July 4th. I don't like fireworks either. So I'll be doing what I do best at home around 10, 11. I'll be going to sleep. God bless you all. Shalom. Be kind. Be patient. Call someone and tell them you love them. If you don't love them, at least call somebody and say, just thinking about you. I did that today with someone, and she hadn't felt well she caught a bad cold. And I'd been meaning to call her every night, and it got too late, and I didn't want to disturb her. And finally today I said, the Spirit said, call her now. She's napping, she'll go back. So I called her, and it was so nice to hear her voice and that she was getting better. So call someone. Just, makes them feel good. God bless you all. Shalom. And I have to hit finish. I hate when these sessions are over. I love them. 4 more.